And good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Historic Districts Review Board. Melissa, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Rios.
Here.
Vice Chair Guida.
Here.
Member Aguilar Medrano.
Here.
Member Berkeley.
Here.
Member Beachside.
Here.
Member Bienvenue.
He's either going to be late or excused.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Are there any changes to the agenda? Heather?
Chair Rios, we do have one change to the agenda. Item number. Item number 1, case 2023-6954-HTRB 578 West San Francisco Street will be continued to the next meeting. That would be the 13th of July. Please note also that the 13th of July is a Thursday, not a Tuesday. Due to scheduling conflict with the Board of Adjustment, we needed to move our date to accommodate both boards due to the holiday.
But we will be meeting in the council chambers. Thank you.
That is correct.
So just remember that, board members. And if there are no further changes, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Rita moves to approve as amended.
Aguilar Madrano seconds.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Aguilar Medrano.
Yes.
Member Berkeley.
Yes.
Member Beachside.
Yes.
Member Guida.
Yes.
The motion has been
Thank you
approved.
very much. We have 2 sets of minutes. First set, May 23rd, 2023. Any changes to Member Beachside?
I have one on the set for May 23rd, 2023. On page 20, under the case for 529 East Palace, I made a friendly amendment to include the south facade. It reads door in the minutes, but I'm pretty sure it's fence, the south facade fence, be non-contributing as recommended by, not by staff, but by the HICP.
Any other changes? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve as amended.
Rita moves to approve as amended.
Beachside seconds.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Berkeley.
Abstain.
Member Beachside.
Yes.
Member Guida.
Yes.
Member Aguilar Medrano.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Any changes to June the 13th, 2023 minutes? Member Aguilar Medrano?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's see, I have a couple. On page 10, the first sentence and the first paragraph, if after the word contributing, if you can change to and designate the north facade as primary. The same paragraph, if you can change the last sentence to read, she wondered if a better way to preserve the historic windows would be to designate them as special features on a non-primary facade, or if the whole facade should also be considered primary. On page 16, the last paragraph, the second sentence, if you can change the word the to staffs. And then the last one is on page 17, the fourth paragraph. If you can change the word including to excluding in reference to the non-historic grills. That's all.
Anyone else? I will entertain a motion as amended.
Rita moves to approve as amended.
Aguilar Madrano seconds.
Roll call, please.
Member Beachside.
Dane.
Member Guida.
Yes.
Member Aguilar Medrano.
Yes.
Member Berkeley.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. We have 5 findings of fact and conclusions for law. Changes to any of these? It appears not. I will entertain a motion to approve these. Motion, please,
Rita, so moved.
Aguilar Madrano seconds.
and roll call vote.
Member Guida.
Yes.
Member Aguilar Medrano.
Yes.
Member Berkeley.
Yes.
Member Beachside.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Anyone here wishing to speak on a matter in reference to H board matters? Member from the public or anyone on Zoom?
Chair Rios, no one.
No one on
Zoom.
Zoom and no one from the public. Thank you. We'll move on to staff communications.
Thank you, Chair Rios. The mayor has interviewed both David Baldo as well as Amanda Mather for this board. Amanda Mather would be proposed to take Flynn Larson's position as a historian. And he has recommended both of them for this board, and they will be considered at tomorrow night's council hearing. It is likely that we will have two new board members come next meeting. So Gary and I will work together to orient them as well as give them some updates on where we are generally within each board and more specifically with cases that some training on cases that we have next. So we're pleased and excited about that, and hopefully the council will agree. With reference to findings of fact and conclusions of law, there has been some concern about those findings being sent out for review. And I know that there was I'm sorry, there was something going on with my computer. I know that there was a concern relative to the number of emails that are being sent out and the like. And I know that there was a board member who would like to, or a couple who would like to see those findings in advance of the packets. So I was wondering if, if we would like to generally just see the findings as part of the packet and make recommendations and changes as part of the packet that you would receive, or whether there are some board members who would prefer to just get those individually, because we don't want to spam inboxes if it's not necessary.
May I hear from you, board members, as to your preference? Anyone have anything? Yes, Member Beachhead.
But I think it's more useful to get those findings, the drafts, closer to when the meeting has happened. What's confusing is this set of findings of fact and conclusions of law, we're covering 4 different meetings, and it's difficult to figure out which ones you were at and what you remembered from there to check the minutes. It would be helpful if we could group them by meeting date and maybe see them closer to when the meeting happened. I think one of the items was from April, which is pretty long ago. So
And I will admit that's my fault.
but
So
I'm not blaming anyone. It's just hard
I'll
to
own
remember
it.
that long ago. Yeah.
So, but yes, we talked about it today at our staff meeting, and we will try to get those things done quickly so that Frank has sufficient time to review them, and then he can send them in bulk so that you would have one email instead of emails for each one. So we'll procedurally try to do that so that you don't have as many emails and can choose to look at them earlier.
Thank you, Heather. An excellent point, Member Beachside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That is it. Just one more item. Well, there is one more item in that 418 Apodaca Hill will be going to the city council tomorrow for consideration of the exception. So I'll be present at that meeting to represent the board. The text amendment is still under review by the attorney's office. So at this point, I am going to continue to consult with the attorney's office to see if we can get that going.
Thank you. And I do want to thank Member Berkeley for her service on the board. Thank you very much. You have been an excellent member. And too bad we have to lose you at this point, but hopefully we'll have someone take your place that will be as good. Thank you. Appreciate your time and service.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I could share an item with the board, and that is that the city council or governing body, the night of June 14th, heard the exception recommendations with respect to the window and door replacements, as well as the parapet extension at 110 Calle de la Pena. They had it as Calle de la Pena. Not is that or not, but anyway. Oh, it's Pena. Okay, I thought,
It's after.
It is Pena.
oh, okay. I thought there was a discussion about that at the field trip, but anyway. Okay, And they approved the exception as the H board recommended. They also took up the matter of the addition on the primary facade on the contributing house at 220 Rodriguez. And as the H board recommended, the governing body voted 7-2 to deny that exception. And there was a discussion about whether or not there would be an appeal, but that time limit hasn't run yet, so I'll keep you posted.
Thank you. So are you telling us that in both instances, the city council upheld the H board?
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have nothing under old business, and we do have 3 cases under new business. And I do need to tell you about appeals. If you disagree with the decision that this board renders this evening, you do have the option to appeal. You'd be appealing to the city council, and you would have up to 15 days after the findings and conclusions have been approved and adopted. And if anyone from the public wishes to speak this evening, I will limit your time to 2 minutes, and we should move right along. We only have 3 cases. And the first case is located at on Canyon Road, 613 Canyon Road. Is that applicant here? The applicant is here. Okay. And that is your case, Lenny, so may we hear from you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. This is case 2023-006938 HDRB for 613 Canyon Road to remodel a contributing structure, including removing historic materials on a primary facade. The property is located at don't mind me. Sorry, the property is located at Canyon and Camino Escondido, and though it is not the corner lot, it is L-shaped and has street frontage on both roads. Staff is recommending approval of the exception to section 14-5.2 D5B to remove historic material, finding that all of the exception criteria have been met and that the application complies with section 14-5.2 D, general design standards for all historic districts, and section 14-5.2 E, downtown and east side historic district design standards. 613 Canyon is a property with 3 existing buildings and numerous additional accessory buildings located in the downtown and east side historic district. The 2-story gallery and apartments are known as Building A and have street frontage on Canyon Road. The gallery structure is designated contributing. Unit B is also known as the V Hill Residence, and it's designated contributing. It's located in the northeast portion of the property in the elbow of the L. Units C1 and C2, or the duplex, are also contributing. The duplex is located on the central east portion of the property, directly south of Unit B and north of the gallery. Tract A is currently a vacant lot, which is being developed per the approval granted by the HDRB under case 2020 001979-HDRB. The focus of this request is for the structure known as the duplex, or units C1 and C2. In 2018, in a status review of the property, the HDRB decided to retain the contributing status of the duplex. At that hearing, both the east on this drawing as facade 1 and west facade 2 were designated as primary, which includes the spaces underneath the portales located on the east facade. The duplex is a 1,083 square foot building constructed in the Spanish Pueblo Revival style. The building was constructed prior to 1950. The building was, its distinguishing characteristics are the rounded and stepped parapets, the chimneys, and the portals. The building did undergo some remodeling in 1984, which included a replacement of the historic wood windows, addition of a door opening, and addition of a portal to the northwest corner. Under case 2020-001979 HDRB in 2021, the Historic Districts Review Board approved replacing all windows with metal clad replacements with divided lights, a small portal matching that on the north elevation to be constructed on the south, stuccoing of the structure, and a small courtyard with CMU walls to a height of 5 feet 6 inches as a remodel of the duplex. During the interior work of the duplex, a rotten wood floor joist and non-code conforming crawl space were discovered. Both 35 square foot entry portals on the east elevation have rotten wood, which no longer supports the weight of the roofs, which are now pitching forward, causing cracks in the wall between the portal and the structure walls. This also causes the existing flashing and old asphalt roofs to be exposed. So the applicant is proposing to first rebuild both entry portals with an additional new dark rusty brown colored ribbed metal roofing. The portal's roof, slope, parapet, lattice ceiling, beams, corbels, viga column, and proportions will remain as currently seen. A metal gutter will be installed at the wood fascia to match the metal roofing color. Second, they would like to lower the floor by approximately 6 inches, thereby lowering all 4 exterior door sill heights. Third, they would do an interior floor slab will be installed approximately 6 inches lower than the existing floor. This will create the need to lower the sill height of all 4 exterior doors. All door and window head heights and openings will remain as existing. Fourth, they're going to re-roof the entire building, concealing new rooftop HVAC units and replace canales. Fifth, the old roofing will be removed and a new pocket roof that will conceal ducted mini split units will be installed. The new pocket roof will be covered with a tan colored TPO roof membrane. New wooden roof canales will replace the rotten existing roof canales. Sixth, they would like to set the condenser and screen with coyote fence within the west elevation in the previously approved courtyard. It'll be screened by a 5-foot coyote fence. Seventh, they would like to add a 12-inch high river rock wall, creating planters to help with current drainage issues at the adjacent structure, which is the rear of Unit A. The applicant did address the exception criteria, and staff agrees with the responses, noting that removal and replacement of the wood elements in kind will retain the appearance of the historic structure while providing stability to the structure for continued use and preserves the unique character of the primary facade of the structure, and that the replacement is required to prevent further deterioration of the portal and damage to the main portion of the residence public safety concerns. In summary, staff finds that the exception criteria have been met and recommends approval of the exception to section 14-5.2 D5B to remove historic materials. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Lanny. Board members, do you have any clarification questions for Lanny at this time? It appears not. And Melissa, I will ask you to help me with the 2 minutes, should anybody want to comment from the public. And will the applicant please come forward and get sworn in?
You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Charles Rosenberg, 333 Montezuma Ave.
Good evening, and I will ask you to speak right into that mic because then the recorder and we cannot hear you. So what do you have to tell us about this case that Lanny perhaps did not, or in addition to?
I don't know if I have anything to add. I think Lanny covered it. welcome to answer any questions.
Board members, any questions at this time? I do have to comment that this particular building has beautifully rounded parapets, really thick walls.
Correct.
It's, and of course, you're going to continue with that.
Yes, we will.
And alrighty, so it appears that there are no further questions or comments. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this particular building? We have John Eddie coming forward.
You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Eddy. My address is number 14 Avenida Campo Verde, 87506. Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. I just wanted to notice a couple of things and bring up a request. Specifically, when I see woodworking replaced on portales, I get really nervous. There has been a recent practice of not, I think I lost my, there we go. Not carefully dimensioning the viga posts as they come up to meet the horizontal members, which they might be corbels or beams. And they go into a pencil sharpener taper at the top because they didn't figure out that that should be a dimension wood that maintains its girth from the bottom to the top. So I would like to just point that out, that I would like to see that kind of practice carefully considered, that they dimension their posts appropriately. There's also on one of the portales, there's what's known as a banco, which is a different color of stucco horizontally, differentiating the upper wall of the interior portal with the lower wall coming down to the floor. That's a vernacular style that is disappearing in its kind of natural native form in Santa Fe, and I'd love to see that protected as well. Thank you, Madam Chair, board members.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rosenberg? Those were two good points that Mr. Eddy brought up, and can you comment on them in reference to the viga ends and also the banco?
Yeah, the banco will be kept white. I mean, we'll repaint it. It goes all the way up to the ceiling. I think he said half the wall. It goes up to the underside of portal. I was a little unclear on what he was saying regarding the viga. He prefers it being pencil shaped at the
No,
top, or
It's
is it
not.
Okay. I know I know exactly what he's talking about. I didn't know what his preference was. I know most builders, they do the pencil shape so you don't get any end grain showing from the beam, but I understand he's saying it shouldn't be wider than the beam.
And that was his point, and I don't know how when the motion is made, what the board members are going to say.
Okay, yeah,
But I felt that that
I understand.
was a good point.
Okay, I agree.
Anyone else wishing to speak in reference to this particular case? If not, I will entertain a motion from the board.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Please do.
Case 2023-006-938 HDRB 613 Canyon Road, C1 and C2. I move that the board approve the project as submitted and recommend to governing body that the exception criteria have been met.
Is there a second to this motion?
Each I will second.
Are there any amendments? There were no amendments, and there was a second to the motion, and we'll take a roll call.
Member Aguilar Medrano,
Yes.
Member Berkeley,
Yes.
Member Beachside.
Yes.
Member Guida.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members.
And we'll move on to the next case, which is Paul's, and it's located at 704 Camino Alejo. Is that applicant here? The applicant. Paul? This is the Wheelwright Museum.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Chair members. Case number 2023-006939, 704 Camino Lejo. This is the Wheelwright Museum. The American Indian. This building in particular was built in 1937 and is an NRHP as of 1990 and a state register property in 1990 as well. The property itself became a significant property in the Historic Review District in 2012. The applicant is proposing to do some renovations on the property. Currently, they're looking at doing a restucco on the main museum, which is a Hogan shaped design. And they're looking at raising, let's see, throughout the entire Hogan design. So on all the elevations, they're looking at restuccoing with cementitious stucco and throughout this structure throughout all the elevations. And with that, on the structure itself, they're looking at putting counter flashing approximately 6 to 8 inches on the base of the structure to protect it from any of the moisture that they incur throughout the year. Also, they're looking at putting in a removal and replacement of the existing plaza waterproofing system and installation and counter flashing throughout the entire kind of open area. And in that, they're looking at removing the brick pavers and in place and then re-emplacing them and removing and replacing any of the brick pavers that may have been deteriorated or broken throughout time. As well as we can see on the wall, they're looking at raising the wall another 6 inches to 42 inches, 3.5 feet. This will keep the wall into code, and then they're going to restucco it with cementitious stucco to match the building as well. Here we see the wooden door and the entryway with counter flashing as well. With this, they're also looking at installing a new wooden door to match the existing wooden door, as well as some counter flashing at the base to protect it from any weathering. They're looking at remodeling the canales. There's approximately 6 canales on the eastern elevation that have fell into disrepair from weather and moisture. And they're looking at removing and replacing in kind with cement canales and then putting flashing as well inside of the canales. And there's another photograph that, well, another thing to discuss is there's some conduit on the southern elevation, which they're looking at removing. This conduit is just piping that has no particular use. It's not providing any electrical to the outside lights, and it's more or less kind of an eyesore that they're looking at removing and then just restuccoing in kind where they remove that conduit. And the stucco they're looking at replacing is a Western Blended Products S10 Cobble Brown, and it'll be mixed to match the exact stucco that is currently on the building today. And staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with the section 14-5.2D general design standards for the historic districts and 14-5.2F historic review district design standards. The proposed work will not impact the significant status of the structure and complies with section 14-5.2C. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Paul, what color is the proposed flashing?
I believe it will be a rustic bronze color.
Also, will they continue with the same type of stucco? It kind of has a light skip trowel. Not a deep one, but it does have, there's a skip trowel.
Chair Rios,
Stucco.
committee members, yes, ma'am. It will be the same as, they'll keep it in kind. Exactly
Thank
as
you.
it is.
Thank you. Any other clarifications? Member Vega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for Heather and Paul. I understand this is 100% almost in-kind replacement. I understand the wall height's increasing by 6 inches. That'll be the only visual change. The reason why this had to come before the board?
Chair Rios, Member Guida, the reason is that is a significant building. And although one might consider it maintenance more than anything, the wall height was one of the triggers, to be honest, about, a bit of a visual change. We just wanted to also ascertain that the materials and that the board had the opportunity to review something like this on a significant building.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then Paul, you mentioned the texture. I just wanted to be 100% certain. We're talking about in-kind replacement of the stucco texture. It's also a cementitious product.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members? None. Applicant, please come forward and get sworn in.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is David Armstrong, PO Box 1123 Cedar Crest, New Mexico. Yes, thank you. I just would like to kind of clarify a few things that just to be more specific. The color on the stucco itself is a Cabo color, but when it was installed, it has faded since then. So we're going to try to match the fade in order to keep things within the same age, because the main part of the building itself is not going to be restuccoed. What we have here is we actually have a plaza deck. And that plaza deck actually has structure underneath it. And so there's a full story below the plaza deck. And that's that lower section of the building that's going to be restuccoed, the wall raised because the wall is not compliant to code. That section is going to get restuccoed. And then as we put the counter flashing in, the original drawings actually showed counter flashing, actually showed a copper flashing. And the remodel, when that last re-roofing was done for that plaza deck, was never, the flashing was never put back on. And so we're trying to take it back to that historic look. So it's, typically if it would have been at this stage in life on a copper, it would have been more of a bronzy color, and the way the copper reacts in our atmosphere here, instead of green, it would be more of a bronzy color. So we're going to try to maintain that. The brick itself, also, I think the brick was replaced at that same time that they redid the plaza deck to begin with. It's not the same original brick. We will never be, we don't have samples of that original brick, so we're going to have to go off of what this brick is. And we're going to try to maintain what we can. If we can, we're going to flip it over and reuse the backside instead of having to go out and try to mix and match, because we'll never get 100% perfect. The stucco surface is referred to more of a Catalina type troweling, where it's smooth with some more there's some more tooling a little bit into it, but it's a rougher Catalina versus a smooth like hard trowel plaster. The door's got to get two things are going on with it is that the actual door itself is weathered. It needs to be replaced. But the threshold, it's a solid metal framing. I'm sure it was done for security purposes. It's got to get re-pulled loose because the threshold itself is damaged. The copper threshold that was there is now damaged. So we got to get to that in order to get the waterproofing properly integrated into the threshold. The concrete liners, the concrete canales are part of one of the major leaks. The building's leaking pretty significantly at the moment. So one of the big sources is those canales. The problem is integration of materials within concrete is a very difficult thing to do. So what we're requesting to do is to replace the concrete in kind, but we're going to integrate a metal liner that's going to be a gray colored liner to kind of match the color of the concrete so that we can integrate that properly into the waterproofing that's going to be installed. Then the counterflashing will cover all of the waterproofing so that the counterflashing will come down to the brick. So we'll have a nice transition connection. So you will never even see the waterproof. And one last part, the electrical part of it on the PAC side, the south side, we can't eliminate a lot of it because it is really the main part of the electrical work that comes from the main transformer that actually even goes over to the library through the tunnel. So what we're looking at doing is consolidating it so that we can at least start to minimize the amount of conduits that are there. Some of it can be just removed because it's abandoned. And we're going to put it back on in a way that it can be maintained in the future without having to be disconnected and reconnected, which only means it's going to be separated from the wall a little bit further than what it is. So that's kind of basically the scope.
We noticed on our field trip, as you enter the building, there was a set of doors there that look very similar to the door that is presently there. But it's different colors. Is that the original door?
So I believe that door has been replaced 3 times. And they all look the same. That is the last, so that was the last time it was replaced, the one that's standing in the entryway. So we're going to get, unfortunately, it's split through. There's no way to repair it. It's the wood's checked too bad.
And do you know what the original stain was? Now it's.
Well, fortunately, we're going back to the same gentleman that built the last 2. He's going to be the guy that's going to be rebuilding it. I don't have that offhand. I don't think the front door got stained to the color that the one that's inside. The one that's inside's darker than this one. Sure. You know, I don't know if there's a second step here where we could actually, once we can get to that part of the design and analyze both of those colors, we could resubmit that just for making sure it's for approval.
Perhaps whoever makes the motion can indicate that staff can make that decision.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Let's see if there are any other questions or comments. Other questions or comments? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Mr. Reddy is coming forward and he's already been sworn in.
Madam Chair, board members, thank you. This building is a little bit misleading. And I think that most people, when they look at it, they see the attempt at modernization and a little bit of extravagant design, which is a departure from most of our Santa Fe traditional building designs. And I don't want to overstate this, but it's unfortunate that there was no Higbee report triggered on this building because of its significance. My understanding was that it was mostly designed and built by William Penhallow Henderson, who was one of our better known Santa Fe painters, who also created Santa Plaza for the White Sisters and built SAR, the grounds at SAR, School for Advanced Research. So these elements that you're looking at whether they be replacements already or not, are elements that Henderson put into this building. If you look at the doors that are under question, there is a faceting that's done by ads by hand. That was a trademark of Henderson. If you go to the restaurant in Casa, I think it's Casa Cena, you'll see a beautiful example of this. If you look throughout the courtyard, you see the faceted ads work on all the beams and Viga posts. So I think a lot of care needs to happen on this building. And like I said, a Higbee should have been triggered because the significance would have been explained. So I just want you to take extra care on this. The canales perhaps were a design by Henderson as well, which obviously have degraded to a horrible degree. If that ties back to the original Henderson handwork on this building, it needs to be added. There needs to be an added layer of respect. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Anyone else wishing to comment on this particular case? Anyone on Zoom?
Yes, Chair Rios, Stephanie Beninata would like to speak. One moment. I don't understand. It's not allowing me to give her talk. IT, can you please promote her? Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Because I just got an unmute signal.
You
Hello,
can Please state your name and address for the record and be ready
Sure.
to.
Stephanie Beninata, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have to agree with Mr. Eddy's comment.
Beninata, I need to swear you in, please.
You need to get sworn in, Stephanie?
Sure,
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I think I agree with Mr. Eddy's comments, and I really feel that it's an omission not to have the Higbee report. And I think the board should consider tabling this project until a Higbee report is available so that you can judge the significance of the building, particularly since it is associated with William Penhall Henderson. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Anyone else? On Zoom? No one else and no one else here? I will entertain a motion, please, board members.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Yes, Member Guida.
Case 2023-006-939 HTRB 704 Camino Alejo. I move the board approve the project as submitted.
Is there a second?
Each side seconds.
Are there any amendments, including regarding the door? Because the applicant indicated that he was going to look into what the original door looked like and the color. Does anybody want to add that as an amendment?
Sorry, I don't know if I understand what the amendment would be.
The applicant was going to look further into what the original door was, in terms of, I think the style of the door is there already, but in terms of color, as I understood him. Is that correct, applicant?
That is very correct. And also the canales will be, we have the original drawing. So we will match what the original drawings called for. And we'll research the door further and submit that as an additional.
So in that case, I thank you for the explanation. I think we can, as a friendly amendment, condition the motion on the applicant's commitment to consult the original drawings and research the stain color for the doors, and present that to staff for a final decision on the stain color and the door rebuild.
Accepted as friendly.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Member Berkeley? Member Beachside?
Yes.
Member Guida?
Yes.
Member Aguilar Medrano?
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Our last case this evening is located at 641 Camino del Monte Sol. This is also Paul's case.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. Case number 2023-006940, HDRB 641 Camino del Monte Sol. This property has two homes, guest home and the main home. On this property, the guest home was built in 1954 and it's pretty unique as we made our site visit today. But there will be no alterations, no renovations. There will be zero work on this property. The work will be done on the main home, which was built in 1990, and is a non-contributing home in the downtown and east side historic district. The proposed additions for this project is here we can see on the western facade where the two windows are at, they're looking at building a garage, 677 square foot garage extending westwardly and from this western facade. They look to add another 280 square feet on the northern facade extending north for an open space for the for existing office, studio, and pantry space. Here at the northeastern corner,
Paul, excuse me, let me interrupt you. Can someone straighten the photographs there? Thank you.
here at the northeastern section in the northern end of the facade and the eastern edge of the facade, they're looking at establishing a new stairwell that will rise up to the patio. Here on the patio, and you can see the stairwell in the background on the eastern facade, they propose to extend the porch in the or tall, extend it out another 5 feet to the east, take out the stairwell and move that into the northeastern corner. Here we can see on the elevations on the western facade, they're looking at expanding on the western facade, they're looking at taking out the stairwell, or as we look at the eastern facade, they're looking at taking out the stairwell and extending it on the northeastern edge. Same on the north side, they're looking at extending out 280 square feet and placing in divided light windows. Same here on the south and west elevations, they're looking on the western elevation extending into a car garage, and on the south elevation, new windows, divided light windows in the master bedroom. As we made the site visit today, we looked at the coyote fence, and this is something that was brought to my attention. They're looking at or proposing to take out the coyote fence and installing a CMU concrete block stuccoed wall. The max height would be 5 feet high, and they're looking at putting in antique pedestrian gate. With that, that's something I will need to talk to the applicant is that we need to extend it 15 feet back from the street in order and possibly lower the fence 3 feet in order for visibility when they're coming in and out of the of the house. But they are proposing this terraced, stuccoed wall with a middle and with a wooden and middle gate. And these are the proposed finishes as follows. And that's all I have.
Any questions for for Paul? No questions. What I found interesting on the field trip is that the guest house is the first house that you see. Normally, obviously, guest houses are behind the main house. And this one was the opposite. And the older house, perhaps in the near future, I believe a survey should be taken. That house looked very authentic to me. It's from the 1950s. And all the pedimented windows, pedimented even doors. Perhaps you could put a little star on that sometime in the near future, that should be surveyed.
Chair Rios, yes, ma'am.
And a question for you, from a public way, other than the wall, is any of this visible?
Chair Rios, no, ma'am.
Thank you, because the main house, it's pretty far back, doesn't it?
Correct.
Thank you. Member Beachai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paul, was a allowable wall height calculation done for this project?
Chair Rios, Member Beachside, no, ma'am.
Do we know what is 5 feet within the allowable height? Can we?
In this area would be 5 feet, would be the allowable height. It would also go along with the height of the buildings around it. So they are keeping in with their neighbors right across the street, with everybody that's surrounding that property. They're keeping in with that same height.
Okay. Do we not require a allowable height calculation for this kind of project?
Chair Rios, Heather, can you help me out with this one?
Chair Rios, Member Beachside, the wall heights in the general area are approximately 5 feet. Yes, typically. If we referred to a previous wall height, the calculation that was done, that was consistent with the 5 foot height. Additionally, if there are no walls in the streetscape, the 5 foot height is what is permitted. But by comparison, 5 feet is what's permissible.
Okay, thank you. And the height of the existing coyote fence do we know what that height is?
The existing height of the coyote fence varies throughout as it's on a sloped, from slopes south to north. So it varies in height, but I would say that the coyote fence varies from 6 feet high throughout that property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
With the exception of the split rail fencing that abuts the street. And that is approximately 3 feet, 6 inches, just by eyeballing it. I didn't measure it.
Yes, that's correct.
Member Aguilar Madrano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Paul.
Madam
Can-
Chair.
Can you just clarify what you were meaning about the wall and setting it back 15 feet? I see on the drawings that the portion of the wall that holds the pedestrian gate is set back 10 feet, 3/4 of an inch. Is that the section that you're referring to that you would grant approval if they moved that to 15 feet?
That's correct, Madam Chair, Member Aguilar Medrano. After talking with Harry Mokino and staff at the site visit, due to visibility constraints, they would need to keep in code with zoning. And in so doing that, they would need to push back 15 feet from the street in order to maintain the visibility for zoning. And there was some discussion of the PZR should have been, whoever reviewed the PZR should have triggered that notified us about that streetscape. So they would have to push it back 15 feet as well as lower it from 5 feet to about 3 feet for visibility.
And that's just the one section of the wall, right? Not the entire length of it? Or are you referring to the entire length of the wall should be 15 feet back?
I believe the entire wall should be pushed back 15 feet from the street.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And one more
Rios.
question, Paul.
Chair Rios.
The pedestrian gate and its surroundings, what is the height of that?
The pedestrian gate, I believe, is 8 feet in max height,
The gate itself or its surroundings?
the surroundings.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Heather.
Chair Rios, with reference to the height of what we call the triangle of visibility, that there are dimensions in the code that are specific to how that portion or that corner needs to be no higher than, I think it's 30 inches. And then, so a portion of the wall would only be required to go that lower height so that vehicles can be seen as the property owner is exiting.
Thank you, Heather.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
just a follow-up question on that point, Heather. I mean, we're just talking about visibility for vehicles turning in and out of the driveway, right?
Chair Rios, Member Guido, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So applicant or applicants, please come forward and get sworn in.
You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Lauren Trick, 436 West San Francisco Street. Questions?
I think she's going to swear you in. Oh, did she already did? Okay, good. You did that really fast. Lauren, do you have anything to add?
I don't know. I don't know whether it was made clear that the finishes of that.
Okay, you can indicate those.
So the existing house is Stowe Adobe Brown. The woodwork is all white. The and of the windows, the fence we're matching as well. So I just wanted to make sure that that was,
Yeah, and speak right into that mic.
Paul was just pointing out that it was in your packet. Just want to make sure that you understood that.
Madam Chair.
Any questions? Member Rita.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Lauren. What is your solution for the visibility triangle, resolving that issue?
I don't know the answer to that. Look at.
Okay.
I want to do this sensitively and not just whack.
Yeah, you have a nice design for the wall. I think it's easily surmountable. It's probably just a case of looking at that triangle and moving that gate entry back a little bit. And I don't think these other dimensions come into play. I would think that, you know, the stagger in the wall that you created, its intent is to create visibility turning in and out of the driveway. So just reconciling that with the zoning requirement would to me would be the issue.
I just want to do this so that the net result doesn't look like a hack job. That it's carefully thought through.
Good.
And
Thank you.
If you wanted to, we can come back to you with that gate design or work with staff on it, whatever.
Well, I mean, this is maybe a question for Heather. You know, we approve things all the time that are subject to additional requirements from other land use departments. To me, the main issue here is moving the elevated gate piece back to the 15 feet requirement to satisfy the view triangle. I would be in favor of approving the wall as designed with that caveat, and then having the applicant return to staff for final approval. Would that be acceptable?
Chair Rios, Member Guido, that's acceptable.
I think that we often do that.
Yep.
So as long as it's clear in the motion. And the gate that you have, that gate is already existing on the property. And it's a wooden gate, correct?
It is. We're rebuilding that gate though.
Oh, you're
Yes.
rebuilding. Okay, and what height is the gate at?
4'6".
What?
4'6".
So any further questions? I think anyone from the audience wishing to comment on this particular project? It appears not. Anyone from the public on Zoom?
Yes, Chair Rios, Ms. Beninato, who has already been sworn. You may unmute.
Thank you. Stephanie Beninato, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I do appreciate that this applicant has
Ms. Beninato?
yes,
Can you please speak a little louder?
Sure, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, because I'm actually shouting and I'm right up to my microphone, so I apologize if it comes out shouting. I'm not trying to shout. I appreciate that the wall is staggered, and yes, definitely the driveway entry has to be set back. However, I think that it's unfortunate that the staff just sort of visually decided that 5 feet was okay, and they didn't bother to do a calculation because it's within 300 feet of the property, not just people right next door. And the other thing that concerns me is the height of this new gate at with the finish at 8 feet, especially since you have a lower gate existing now. And I'm just wondering if the gate could be, and the whole height of the top of it could be shorter, or perhaps the piece over the gate could be removed and you would just have the gate without the arch over it. Because again, it seems a little bit out of harmony and proportion to what's there. And again, as we allow higher walls, which this 5-foot wall is higher than the coyote fencing, our city becomes less visible. The historic buildings become less visible, and it becomes much, much less friendly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom?
No, Chair Rios.
Board members, if you have no further questions or comments, I will entertain a motion in reference to this case.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair. Case 2023-000-06940 HDRB 641 Camino de Montisol. I move that the board approve the project as submitted, noting that the applicant will have to adjust the placement adjust the profile of the wall, placement of the gate to address the vehicle visibility triangle for the vehicle driveway entrance, and that the applicant return updated drawings for the wall to staff for final approval.
Is there a second?
Aguilar Medrano will second with a friendly amendment that they also resubmit the street wall elevation to include dimensions that show the wall is not to exceed 5 feet in height.
The main portion of the wall,
Correct.
except as friendly.
Any other amendments? No further amendments. We'll take a roll call vote.
Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Member Aguilar Medrano,
Yes.
Member Berkeley.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Discussion items, anything?
Chair Rios, there are no discussion items.
No discussion items. Matters from the board members?
Madam Chair, just to kind of revisit the question, I know that the city attorney's office has the drafted text amendment. Just for the record, we're at 9 months since this issue was raised. This board reviewed a text change some months ago. We proposed a very simple edit. I'm speaking on behalf of the frustration of applicants over this particular issue. This was, in my view, a not necessary action that was imposed upon the board by the city attorney's office. It disrupted the way that the board practiced and rendered decisions for decades. It's disturbing to me that this text amendment hasn't already happened. I've heard complaints not only from applicants, but also members of city council. I don't think the governing body is particularly jazzed about having to hear these cases. And, we've inconvenienced project schedules for, wealthy white families on the east side who have paid expensive entitlement consultants and architects and cost them money. That's not who I'm most upset about, but I think it is reflective of how the ordinance in general is exclusionary to people of less means. And this is just a kind of extreme example of what what the ordinance does in general, but also of the implications of the decisions that are made about its enforcement at this board and at the city attorney's office. And so I would really encourage the city attorney's office to move this forward as soon as possible for those reasons. Thank you.
Anyone else? Other comments? And we have our next meeting, as Heather said, it's going to be on a Thursday, and that'll be July the 13th. And anyone here not going to be present?
I am not going to be present.
So I will entertain a motion to be adjourned.
Aguilar Madrano, so moves.
Wait a second.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Guida,
Yes.
Member Aguilar Madrano,
Yes.
Member Berkeley.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you and good evening, everyone, and thank you all.